Jake here for American Muscle, and today I'm taking a look at this AFE Momentum GT cold air intake with the Pro Dry S filter for 2011 to 2019 3.6 liter Dodge Challengers. This intake is going to appeal to the Pentastar Challenger owner who's looking for both form and function in one easy to install package. This is a premium intake that features a closed air box, a high flow filter, and easy installation in an all-inclusive package that looks just as good as it performs. And the best part is, there's no tuning required. Now, AFE has made a name for themselves in all things flow, hence the company's name, Advanced Flow Engineering. And the key, of course, to any good intake system is that airflow, a large part of which is dictated by the air filter. Now, this system features AFE's Pro Dry S filter, which is this big old 9-inch tall inverted cone filter. It has this massive oval flange with a polyurethane frame for durability, and the filter consists of 3 layers of synthetic media, each one more fine than the one previous, so it does an excellent job at filtering out dirt and particulates. AFE claims 99.2% efficiency from the filter, and given the size of this thing, I think that's probably pretty accurate. It's got a huge amount of surface area with the height and these deep pleats that you see here too. Now, this is also a dry filter, so there's no oil to contend with, which means that cleaning it is going to be a breeze. Just pop it out, wash it, and then put it right back in, and you're set to go for a while. Now, the filter is great on its own, but the rest of the intake system is important as well. Now, AFE's setup here includes a Trick one-piece closed air box. And if you want to make the most out of an intake setup, a closed box is the way to go, since it's going to be a true cold air intake because it's going to pull that cooler air from outside of the car, not hot air from inside around the engine bay. Now, this box is made from black cross-linked polyethylene, and it's CAD designed and roto-molded, so it's all one solid, strong piece, and it's going to provide excellent fitment. Now, that polyethylene construction and the fact that the box is all one piece with no lid helps with heat insulation too. So it's going to keep the engine bay heat off of that filter here. By now, you've probably also noticed this little window at the top of the box too. Since this is again all one piece, that window is as much functional as it is aesthetically pleasing because it provides an easy way for you to check the cleanliness and the condition of the filter without having to disassemble any part of the system. Now, much like the box, the intake tubing is also roto-molded, CAD designed, and dyno tuned to ensure a perfect fit and a noticeable difference over stock. Mostly, an intake is going to net you some better response and some increased noise, and that is certainly the case here. The tubing is large and it's smooth all the way through, so it's going to provide excellent airflow. You can see that there's no weird creases or anything in it. All the curves are smooth. So you're going to get that cool intake honk too when you get on it, because you get some great resonance through this too. And it's going to be unobtrusive still while you're cruising around at light throttle applications. The tube also attaches with these super nice silicone couplings, and it has some great fittings too for your temperature sensor and other ancillary pieces, and what are probably the nicest clamps I've ever seen on an intake. So you can see that AFE did not skimp on the construction with this one. Another big positive here is that this is a no tune required intake, so you do not need to invest in a custom tune or flash tuning module in order to get this set up to work on your Challenger. Just put this guy right in and you're off and ready to go. However, like I mentioned before, as with any other intake, you shouldn't expect huge power gains. You should still feel some difference in the way the car responds since you are funneling more air through the intake, especially with this big filter. But big power gains are not going to be the end result here. You are going to get an appreciable difference though. And of course, even though a tune is not required, if you want to get the most out of this setup, you can always invest in a tune or another breathing modification like an exhaust to make the most amount of difference. Now, all the features we just covered, of course, do not come cheap though. This is going to run you right around $525, and that is one of the most expensive intakes for the Pentastar powered Challenger. However, you are getting excellent quality, this gigantic filter, and all these other bits too. So if you're shopping for an intake, it's worth shelling out the money for the nice features and that quality construction. Installation is also quite simple, coming in at a 1 out of 3, and it should only take you about an hour to get it done. It's a job that's easily accomplished at home with common hand tools, and everything you need to get this installed in your car is right here in the box. Not much more to say about it, so let's throw it over to one of our AM customers right now who's going to show you the process for getting this installed on your Challenger.
To begin, you do need a socket set for the clamps, or for the clamps on the air intake, and you can actually also use it for the bolt that holds the intake in. You'll need an 8mm for the stock clamp, and then an 11mm for the new clamps, as well as the bolt that holds the intake in. I also did use a small extension just to make it easier. You don't have to, but it does help a little. So you also need an Allen wrench. This is a 1/8 inch Allen wrench. Its only purpose for this installation is the 2 screws that go to the bracket on the curved tube. And finally, I did use a pair of tin snips for the rubber that goes on the bottom of the air intake. It seemed to be about 1.5 inches too long, so I just snipped about 1.5 inches off. It is rubber, but there is a piece of metal inside, so you probably want to use something like tin snips instead of just like a knife or something, just so it's more even cut. So that's all the tools that you need for this installation. Hey everyone, today I'm actually going to be installing the AFE Momentum GT cold air intake. This intake system is made for the 2011 through 2021 V6 Dodge Challenger and Dodge Charger. So I do want to go over a couple things before I actually start the installation. First of all, so whenever you are installing a kit like this, you do want to make sure that you have all of the pieces that come with the kit before you start. Just because you don't want to get halfway through the installation and find out that you're missing something, and then it'll just be a hassle because you'll just have to uninstall the whole thing and go back to stock. So always just double check the manual to make sure that you do have all the pieces. Alright, so now to the installation. I am going to be doing a step-by-step, so just to make it easier. So the first step is to remove the engine cover and disconnect the crankcase hose. The engine cover, just this piece, should just pop right up. Might have to give it a good tug. You just take that off and set it to the side. The crankcase hose is right here. It connects to the back of the engine, I believe, and the air intake. So you just need to pull this. Should slide right out. Yep, slides right out. Alright, so the next step is to remove the 8mm bolt off the factory air intake box. So this is why when we start using the 8mm socket, and that's the wrong one. I can't count apparently. We will be needing this bolt later, so just you can set it aside or set it right here. It's pretty safe in that little spot. So at this point, we also have to loosen the clamp at the factory air intake box near the throttle body. So once you do look over here, there is a clamp. It attaches right to the throttle body and the intake. That actually does need an 8mm. So I believe the new clamps that are included with the kit use an 11mm bolt. So we just loosen this a good amount, enough that we can pull this off eventually. I'm not going to take the whole thing off. Well, actually, it did come off right. So step 4 is to unplug the temp sensor. So this is the temp sensor right here. So the way to get this out is you want to pinch at the bottom, at the very base of this, and just pull it out. Alright. So now that that's out, you can just set that aside also. And I'm going to move the camera back. And at this point, everything is disconnected from the factory intake air system, so we can actually pull this out. So you should want to probably pull from this side. You pull this up, and then you'll have to pull this entire side out and maybe to the side kind of, because underneath this part of the intake system is a grommet that is attached to a mounting point on the car. So it'll be a rubber piece that might be difficult to pull out. Mine actually does not have the grommet attached at all, so mine should be relatively easy. You may or may not have the grommet attached to your car. Not sure why I struggled so hard, but you can take the whole thing out and we can set it on the ground. Okay, so step number 6 is to transfer the grommet from the factory air box to the AFE housing. The grommet that we're talking about is located at the front of the stock intake box. So I believe you should just be able to pull it out. It might be a little difficult. Or actually, the metal piece does come out at sometimes, and then you can pull the rest of the grommet out. So it does look just like this, and there's 2 pieces. So you install the rubber piece first, and then the metal piece over it to give it a nice tight seal. So once we look at the new air intake, we do want to place this like that, so it's partially sticking underneath the plastic piece at the top and also in place at the top. And once we do that, we take the metal piece and should just be able to give it a nice push, and it goes right in. So the grommet is now installed. Step number 7 is to install the trim seal to the bottom edge, which I actually already did. I did this, it's dirty, but I did this because the trim piece looked a little long, so I wanted to trim it ahead of time. So you do just need to just go along the edge, push it down, make sure it's nice and tight. It can pop off a little, so I do suggest kind of holding it against either a table or even your legs and just kind of pulling it back down, making sure that the seal is nice and tight. Mine's on pretty tight. So step number 8 is to slide the AFE filter inside the AFE housing until it locks in place. And then you install the clamp on the filter, but you do not want to tighten it yet. You do just want to take the housing, and the filter should slide right in, oops, backwards. Should slide in just like this. Should click into place. And that is into place now. And then we take the clamp. It's the larger of the 5 clamps that are included in the kit. And you just want to put it over this part of the filter. We'll tighten it later once every piece of the kit is installed. So step 9, it refers to 2015 and up Challengers. You can actually remove the cap of the center of the headlight and install an inlet duct that you can actually purchase from AFE. It does let more air in. I actually did not buy it yet. I figured I might buy it in the future, but I'll see just how it goes without the inlet duct. But if you do want to install it, then you'll have to buy that. Otherwise, you can use this plug to close it off if you don't want any air coming from the front or anything, if anything slips in. Step 10 refers to the factory grommet that is supposed to be right here. It was actually on the bottom of the stock intake. It looks like this. If it is on your intake, you can just pull it right off, and then you just plug this hole just like that. Once that is in place, you can now go to step 11, which is to install the AFE housing assembly. It should just pop right into place somewhat. So it just kind of sits there because it doesn't quite, the grommet does not hold it in. You'll figure that out in a little bit. So now we look for the curved tube, which is this tube. Step number 12, we install a hump coupling to this. The hump coupling is actually this coupling. We have two couplings that come with the kit. This one actually has the hump in the center. We do want to use the two larger remaining clips. And you can put one clip over this. And install it over the side of the tube. Once that is nice and tightly on, you can also put the other clip on, or the other clamp. I'm actually going to leave this one off just so it doesn't fall off for now. Step 13 is to secure the bracket to the tube. This is the bracket. And we secure this onto the tube with the two furnish button screws, which are these screws. This is when you actually need the Allen wrench. And it only goes one way, obviously. It goes this way. We do want to tighten these. I know we are not tightening very many things yet, but we want these nice and tight so the bracket is not loose. So now that that is nice and tight, we are going to go to step 13. Actually, step 14. We install the provided rubber mount into the hole on the bracket. The rubber mount is this piece. It has a slight point at the end. And we actually want to install it so that the opening is facing us. You should just be able to push it on. You might need a good amount of pressure to actually get it on. So step 15 is to install the furnished grommet into the hole on the AFE tube. The hole is this hole, and the furnished grommet is this piece. So it has the little indentation in the center to provide a seal. So you should just be able to push this right into this hole on this side. Again, it might need a little pressure. Probably want to make sure that it's even on both sides. Sometimes if you push it a little too much, it might buckle on the inside or outside. So just make sure it's nice and even. After this, we are now going to press a fitting into this hole. The fitting is the small plastic piece. It has an arrow pointing to this is where we insert the temperature sensor. So this should just just push right into this. It is a tight fit again, so it might again need a good amount of pressure. That's all the way in. So at this point, we are now going to remove the temperature sensor from the stock intake. It has actually this piece, we did unclip the sensor from it. So normally you want to turn it counterclockwise and then pull it out. I did loosen mine just because I normally have a difficult time removing it, so it should just pop right out. When you look at this piece, right here and on the other side, it looks like a small triangular shape cutout. So when you are putting this, when you're installing this little piece, you just need to line up those two pieces of plastic to the opening, and then you want to turn it clockwise back into the opening. That gives it a nice lock. I believe you can also use some type of lube. I'm not 100% sure, so you might want to Google that to make this slide into into position more. I could be wrong about that, so you should Google that if you decided to do that. It does go right back in usually. You might need to use a little force. Shouldn't be too much force because you don't want to break this. And you also don't want to touch these this connector right here. You don't want to get any dirt or grime on it. Mine actually looks a little dirty on this side. I'm not sure if it is, but it looks a little dirty. You might, if it's too dirty, you might just not get the correct temperature reading inside the car. But otherwise, just hold it by this side and you should be good. Okay, so now we're going to go to finish up with step 16 by securing the temperature sensor into the fitting that we installed. So we just need to line up the plastic pieces. I don't think you'll be able to see it on my video. I may end up just doing this off video just because I'm at a slightly awkward angle standing and doing this. And it's easier to just do it off camera so you guys don't have to watch me struggle. But the idea is to just push it in a little and you should be able to turn it clockwise about 90 degrees. So normally this piece of plastic right here will go over this tiny piece of plastic that's actually on the fitting, and that somewhat locks it into place. Okay, so I did manage to get the intake temperature sensor all the way in. It was a bit of a struggle, but it is in all the way. So now we go to step number 17, which is to install the small coupling over the throttle body with clamps. Smaller coupling is the only remaining coupling that we have, and we only have 2 more clamps left, slightly smaller than the other ones. So you want to take one clamp, just put it over the coupling, and then we just fit this over the throttle body. We do have a second coupling, so we should put this over the throttle body coupling also. Close together. Now we go to step 18, which is to install the curved tube onto the coupling and then push the grommet onto the factory mounting peg. So we turn this entire tube over so that this side goes into the throttle body or into the coupling that's attached to the throttle body, and then this grommet will install this onto the factory mounting point. It should just push on somewhat. does sometimes help to have a second person who can either hold the tubes, or sometimes they get just slightly stuck. So if you have someone that you can have pull on the tube a little. So now we go to step 19, which is to install the second tube into the filter and then into the coupling. So we go that way and then into the coupling. We do want to make sure that we have both clamps on. You know, we took one off just so it wouldn't slide off, because it was pretty loose. Take this tube, we just install right into the filter area. Install into the filter. I believe this part might be a little difficult. So yeah, if you do have a second person for this, it definitely does help. Step number 20, which is to align all the tubes correctly and make sure the grommet is engaged on the mounting peg, and then tighten all clamps. I believe all of the tubes are aligned. The grommet is attached. So we are now going to just tighten all of the clamps. I believe this is where we use the 11mm bolt. You do want to make sure that all of these clamps are nice and tight. You don't want them to be too loose and have any vacuum leaks or anything. Just because we are working with air, and you don't want any air either escaping or just any vacuum leaks that might affect the performance of your engine. You do have any electronic tools, it definitely does help. But I don't work on my car too much, so I haven't really purchased any, like an impact wrench, I believe it's called. Those are nice and tight. Now we use these clamps to connect these two tubes. I'm not sure how I want these aligned. I have a weird thing where I just like bolts and clamps and stuff like this at a certain position, so I'm just moving them around. Maybe you'll hand tighten it just a little, if that's easier. Probably won't get too far with your just hand tightening, but make sure the clamp does stay on the coupling. You don't really need it to be on just the plastic, obviously. That won't It won't seal anything. Like that. That's pretty tight. I might tighten it just a little bit afterwards. If I don't think it's tight enough, I'll double check after. Just gonna use a small extender. I'm not sure if that's what it's actually called, but okay, so now that all the tubes are lined up and the grommet is engaged and all the clamps are tightened, we can now go to step number 21, which is to reconnect the temperature sensor. I won't move the camera this time, but the temperature sensor is the sensor that is near the throttle body. It should just click into the sensor right over here. And now step number 22 is for vehicles between 2011 and 2019, you can reconnect the crankcase hose to the tube and secure it with the furnished mini clamp. The mini clamp is the only clamp left. It's the tiny one. I believe you can just, I don't know if you have to use this, but you can. I realized that I did make a large mistake from the beginning of the installation. When you remove the crankcase hose, you should also have this tube that is attached to the crankcase hose. When you pull this crankcase hose off, this was actually on the factory intake box. You do need that. You want to put that, attach the crankcase hose back in there. Might have to bend it a little, or just kind of pull it down, I think. Yeah. At this point, you do need a Phillips head screwdriver for this. I didn't notice at the beginning that you do need a Phillips head, so beware that you do need a Phillips head to tighten that clamp. Okay, so now that the crankcase hose is completely connected to the intake, we now have to tighten this clamp. I did grab my Phillips head screwdriver. Sorry if I blocked the video. I'm trying to make it so that the hose is fully on the intake position. The hose doesn't perfectly align. It makes me a little nervous because it's not like fully on there. Okay, so I think that's nice and tight. So now we can go to step number 23, which is to reinstall the factory bolt to the housing. You do need your 8mm again. You want it nice and tight so it doesn't wobble around. It's like I did say, it does not fully connect onto the grommet that's attached to the car. There's a little plastic piece on the bottom of this intake box that it goes into the grommet, but it doesn't snugly fit in there. Okay, so now that that's installed, we can actually go to step number 24, which refers to 2020 and up vehicles. So for 2020 and up vehicles, you actually would disconnect the entire crankcase hose from the back of the engine. It actually disconnects at the very back of the engine. You can replace, and then step number 25 says to replace that hose with the new hose. The kit does come with a brand new crankcase hose that you can use. So you would just route it on the driver's side and connect to the AFE tube. Now that installation is pretty much complete, we go to step number 26, which is the final step. And that is just to replace the engine cover. Snaps right into place. And you are done. You are fully installed. The instructions also do say to place the enclosed CARB EO sticker on a clean surface. The EO identification number or label is required to pass smog check inspection. You can do that if you would like, unless you are not worried, but I would recommend doing that just for your inspection. All right, thanks guys.
That's going to wrap it up for our review and install of the AFE Momentum GT cold air intake with the ProDry S filter for 2011 to 2019 3.6 liter Challengers. Thanks so much for watching, and remember, for all things Challenger, be sure to stick with us right here at AmericanMuscle.com.